So now you have a group of sounds that is working on different patterns. If I play my patterns, I can like go back and forth between them. Maybe you think my drum kit is cheesy, but I mean, I kind of agree it's a little cheesy, but I'm going to move forward with it and try to make a real song out of it. Specifically, I'd like to add some things that sound like real instruments to make my song more melodic and interesting. If you think back to when we made these together, they were all different patterns within the same group. So if I want to add another instrument, I need to add something new here so it's not just more of the same drum kit sound. So the way I do that is I hold down group, and notice this button lights up white. If I click that button, watch what happens up here. I get a new group that is yellow that I can use to make some other sounds. It could be more drum sounds, but I'm going to use it to make some instrument sounds, like I said. Notice now if I hold down group, I've got the orange group and the yellow group. If I was to press this again, I could make even more groups, but I don't need to do that. So I'm going to undo, and I'm just going to focus on this yellow. Now to bring it back to this contrast, instruments versus drum kits. If we think back to how I found my drum kit sound initially, I used this filter and I used this list. I'm going to do that again. And right now, if I go through my list, I'm still looking at a bunch of drum kits. I don't want that. I want something that's an instrument. So if I click filter, I need to go back with the back arrow to where it says group down here, file type group. This time, if I select this with the knob, I can select instrument, and notice there's 3,600 instruments for me to choose from. And if I click the arrow forward, I'm always just going to go product all, but if I go to the type, I can choose what type of instruments I'm looking at. There are 762 basses, there are 48 bowed strings like violins and stuff, there's 37 brass instruments, and so on and so forth. I'm actually going to go down to synth lead because there's some cool sounds there that I know about. I'm going to click list. Now all of the instruments I'm looking at are synth leads, and if I click the knob, I can listen to what this Analogica synth lead sounds like. If I go to a different synth lead, I can listen to what that sounds like. Now notice, this is the only button that does anything right now. That synth lead is on that one pad, but all the other ones just say sound 2, sound 3. There's nothing actually there. If I press those buttons, they don't really do anything. In order to actually play this like a keyboard, I need to use keyboard mode versus pad mode. And the way I do that is by holding down the shift button, and where it says pad mode, I click that. Notice all the lights light up, and I can now play this like a keyboard. There's a little keyboard here, and I've got whatever sound I want with a keyboard that I can use for it. So I'm actually going to go to a sound called bass tone because I was playing it with before I liked it. I'm going to click this, and again, I've got this keyboard to work with. If I hit play, I can hear my drum beat from before, and I can actually play along with it. And if I actually record, I can record along to this. So let's say I wanted to record this line. Let me try to do that. The thing that I've run up against here is this phrase. We saw this before. This phrase is only 4 measures long. So it's trying to loop every 4 measures, which is not what I want. So I'm going to have to shift, undo what I just recorded, and then we did this before, I'm going to show it to you again. If I click pattern, I can double the length of that pattern, which means this will extend out longer and it won't repeat as fast. So let's try that again. That's better. Now, a couple things that are especially relevant when you've got instruments that you're playing with. This works for the drum beats too, but I want to show it to you here. If I do that same thing where I did before to kind of duplicate this pattern, it'll make a new yellow version of that. Now I've got pattern 1 and pattern 2. Right now they're exactly the same thing, but I can go in here and I can edit with these sounds as much as I want to. So if I play this, I could move these sounds to wherever I want them, or I could even move them out like this. That's not what I want to do, but like the idea is like once you've recorded something, you can move things around with your mouse on the screen to play different notes or even move them to a different place. What I would like to do actually is record a different part of the line, so I'm going to go ahead and alright. Alright. And just like before, I can go back and forth between my two patterns. And if I go to the orange group, I can then go back to my very cheesy drum beat, and I can move around, I can play these different things. Oh, there, that's better. Anyway, you get the idea. Once I have these different groups of sounds, I've got my drum kit, I've got my synthesizer, I can add a bunch of different things, and I can go back and forth and play them all as an instrument. So I'm really performing using this tool rather than just recording something that plays on its own on the laptop.